So hello and welcome to my channel Tech with Shubham. This is the part 5 of the logic building series. In this video, we are again going to take the part of the pattern printing. In the previous video, we have taken the pattern printing for this kind of triangle, for this square, for this kind of triangle, for this type of triangle, and again this double-sided triangle, again this down-sided triangle. This kind of patterns we have been printed in the previous videos, but in this video we are going to print the numbers in the form of patterns. Yes, it is a little bit harder type of topic, we can say it so. So let's start with our first problem, and that is the pattern. I will just write the pattern, that is 1 2 3 4 5, then it is 6 7 8 9 and 10. In this way it is 11, this is 16, and this is 21, 22, then 23, then 24, and then 25. So it is 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So this is the type of pattern which we need to print in the logic building in this problem, in this question. So how can we print this pattern? So can you guess what logic will be needed for this? I will just change the color of this pen. Okay. So can you guess what kind of logic would be required for this kind of printing the pattern? So firstly, we need to remember the basic questions, that for any kind of logic to be printed, for any kind of shape to be printed, there are only three basic requirements and the tools that are needed to be utilized. That is I, J, and the number. The number is the number of rows taken from the user, and I and J. I is the rows and J is the columns. These three. Upon these three only, all the operations of the pattern printing, shape printing, number printing, anything on these three, that is I, J, and N, everything belongs to these three only. Any kind of hard pattern may be there. It only includes the logical arrangement of these three I, J, and N. So let's look for this particular pattern. So what is it? It is, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. 5 number of columns. That is JR5. And there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 number of rows. So, and what input we have taken from the user? N is the input. So N equals to 5. This is the input taken from the user. Okay. So now we need to further calculate that how this pattern can be printed. So our first line would be take input from the user. Then the second line would be, we will just code along with the program. I will just write here program1.py. Okay, let's start. So what's the program over here? We will take the input from the user. N is equals to int input. What is the input? Enter number of rows that the user want in the table to be formed. Okay. Now the next line. What is our next line to be printed? Our next line is for I in. Our next line that is to be printed is, let's go over here. We will initialize the rows and the column. That is the loops for rows and column. For I in range. What is the range? Range is n. Okay. And after I, what is our next statement for j in range? What is the range for j? The j range for j again n. Okay, here n spelling is okay for I in range n, for j in range n. Now after doing this, what kind of shape we will be get? We will do this square kind of shape. So our logic is that we need 1 2 3 4 5 in the first column, and in the rows how are they? 1 6 11 16 21. What kind of pattern can we find out from the rows? The pattern is that the it is incrementing by 5, it is incrementing by 5, it is incrementing by 5, it is incrementing by 5. So each time the row jumps by 5 steps. Okay, so this is the key pattern that is in this pattern. So what is 5? 5 is n, that is the user input. So we need to define a value which is equals to 5. 5 is the user input, therefore n into I. Did you get it? This pattern n into I. For this I is 0. For this I is 1. So 5 into 1, that is 5. So for this I is 2. 5 into 2, that is 10. This is how the incrementation of the rows comes. So here we will take value is equals to, what is the input? N into I. This is the requirement of the pattern to be printed. So in our next line, what are we going to print? Print the value. Okay. After this value printing, what we need to do is this end equals to double bracket and backslash t. This needs to be given. So now what will it print? It will print only like what is this 000. But we need value plus our shape demands. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what is this? These are the values of j. In the range function, how the j works is for range 5, it will start from 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But at the starting element, if we value plus j, if we do so, then again at the first one it is 0 only, but we want 1. So what will it have extra? It will need plus 1 as extra. So let's go into the shape, and here value plus j plus 1. This would be the printing statement for this in this question. So after printing this, what we need to do is print statement which doesn't have anything. Why is this required? This is required to change the line. So now let's run the program and check if we have entered the correct program for it. Let's give the number of rows equals to 5, and yes, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 20, and yes, 25. We got exactly the correct shape that we were expecting from this figure, and hence the logic for this pattern is been taken. So now we need to revise it once more. Firstly, we need to look for the pattern like this. This is a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These are the rows. Firstly, we need to look for the pattern in rows. That is 1, 6, 11, 16, 21. What is the common difference? The common difference is 5. So keeping this 5 into our eyesight, we need to look further that how this 5 can be taken from I, j, and n. So further we got to know that n is equals to 5 is the input given by the user. So replace this 5 by n. Okay. So each time when the line changes into the next row, we increment the value by 5, and it is done. So we need to, after giving the loop for I in range n, we need to create new function, that is value is equals to n into I. As you can see, for first row it is 5 incremented, for second time it is 10 incremented, for third time it is 15 incremented, and for fourth time it is 20 incremented. So it is the multiplication of 5 with 1 2 3 4, and for the first row it is 0. So we need to multiply 0 1 2 3 4. 0 1 2 3 4 is the pattern from the I. So value is equals to n into I. So we got the pattern for the rows. Now we need to get the pattern for these columns, that is 1 2 3 and 4. In Python, j starts for the range is 0. 0 1 2 3 4, but we need 1 2 3 4 5. So we need to add j plus 1 for printing 1 2 3 4 5, and that's all. After printing the line, we need another print statement to change the line, and this is how we can print the pattern for the given required shape. Now let's move to next logic. This pattern, that is 0 3 6 6 10 14 12 17 22. So this kind of pattern, firstly what we have to do, I have told you in the previous pattern that, so this is our new problem. This pattern, so this is our new pattern. So to get the logic for this pattern, what we need to do, I have told you that our first step is to know that I, j, and n. These are the only three elements upon which this pattern can be printed, and there are loops for I and j, and n is the input from the user. So just look and analyze this pattern. How is this starting? This is row 1, row 2, row 3. There are 3 rows and 3 columns. So number of rows getting input from the user is n is equals to 3. This part is clear. Now I and j. So how is this pattern printing? Look over here. We need to look for the change in the rows. So this row starts with 0, this row with 6, this row with 12. What is the difference? Here the difference is of 6. Here the difference is of 6. So we got to know that in the pattern the difference is of 6 when each time the row changes. So how can we get this difference? What we have from I, j, and n, such that we can get this difference 6. So we have n is equals to 3. So we need to create a value is equals to 3, that is n into 2. So 3 into 2, which is equals to 6. We got this difference over here. Okay. But what we need to know that each time this 6 is for the first row, it is 0, not 6. Okay, so I for the first row is 0, I for the second row is 1, I for the third row is 2. So 0, 1, 2, and we need that. That's why we multiply it by I. So how does it now come? It is like n into 2 into I. So this pattern is been printed. So now we need to look for the columns, that is 0, 3 and 6. Here 6, 10 and 14. So it is incrementing by 3. It is incrementing by 3. It is incrementing by 4. It is incrementing by 4. Here the increment is by 5. So we need to get analyze this pattern. It is for the first row, it is incremented by 3, the second by 4, the third by 5. So as the row increments, the difference between these values for the each row also gets incremented. How is this connected with? For the each row the increment is by 1. This is connected by the value I also changes for each row by 1 value only. So we need to remember that the increment, another value is being used in this, in which I is present. Okay, this I is very important. But how is this incrementing? I is 1, 2, so I is incrementing by 2. But here you can see that it is the first row is incrementing by 3. And what is 3? 3 is our n. So increment is I plus n. So these two values needed to be kept in mind for the designing of the program. Let's design a program. Firstly, we need to take the number of rows input from the user. Let's take over here. The number of rows input has been taken from the user. Now what our next step is, I will just clear this output. So what our next step is, number of rows input has been taken from the user. So we will just define the rows for I in range. What is the range? Range is n. And what kind of value we are having? Value which is equals to I into 2 into n. This is the value. And what is the increment we just calculated? Increment which is equals to n into, no, it was n plus I. So this is the increment for each row. So now let's print for the j for I in range j. In range j, what we need to print now? We need to print the value. print print value. \t. After printing the value, what we need to do is increment the value. That is value which is equals to, that is value plus equals to increment. That is each time the value is over here, you can see the value is 0. But for this, the increment of the second value is by 3. That is I is 0 in first case, but n is 3. Then again n is 3, I is 0. For the second row, I plus n, which is n equals to 3 plus I is 1, that is 4, 4 difference. Here 5 difference, that is I is equals to 2 and n is equals to 3. So this is how the pattern gets printed. After this for loop, what we needed to give is one print. Why this print? This print changes the row. Okay, now let's get the output, if we get the correct output or not. What our question was, it was for 3 rows. Something is wrong given in this. So over here we have made a mistake for j, for I in range n, and for j in range. What is the range? For j in range n. This was a little small mistake. Let's run the program once again. What is the number of row? 3 number of rows. See the pattern: 0, 3, 6, 6, 10, 14, 12, 17, 22. We got the correct output for the required pattern. So need to understand this kind of logic. Okay, you need to perform this kind of logical based questions by yourself to improve your logic more. Now let's move on to the third question. 50, 45, 65, 85, that is 60, 80, 100, 120. So you can analyze that there are number of 4 rows. So n in this case is equals to 4. So and there are 4 rows and 4 columns in this case. So n is equals to 4, that user input is 4. So let's analyze the increment in the number of rows. When incremented, it get incremented by 15, it again get incremented by 15, this also get incremented by 15. So what kind of pattern can be formed to get this common difference, that is 15? So we have n is equals to 14. How can we form this? So we will form this like value which is equals to n into 4 minus 1. So 4 for the 16 minus 1, that is 15. So using this we can get this difference of 15. But we need to know that for this first row it is 0. For this first row it is 15. For this second row it is 30. For this third one it is 45. For fourth one it is 60. So it has been multiplied by I. Okay, but I at this first case is 0. So when I multiply by this 15 it becomes 0. So we need I plus 1. So this multiplied by, so this value gets multiplied by I plus 1. In this way, we can form the pattern for this 15, 30, 45, 60. But what about the j? When to print the j values? And there is an extra increment of 20 in the case of j. So while printing the value of j, what kind of logic is required to print this triangle? So the logic required for this triangle is, let's write the program, and that time we will discuss the logic. N is equals to n into enter the number of rows. Rows input is taken from the user for I in range. What is the range? Range is n. And then for what we need to know, the value we calculated was value which is equals to 4. No, what I told you that in this case, look over here, 4 rows, 4 columns. Okay, the value is incrementing by 4. There are 4 columns. So the value gets incremented by 50. We have defined this n into 4 minus 1. So this 4 over here, you can get it. So n into 4 minus 1. We need to give this a bracket, as we need to multiply the whole bracket by I plus 1 value. We need to form another bracket, and in which I plus 1 is been defined, and close the bracket. After this value is been defined, what we are going to do is we are going to form the loop for j in range. What's the range for j? The range is same, that is n. No, the range is not same for j. Here the pattern is triangle. Triangle pattern means for j it is, the range is I plus 1. You need to look very carefully. For this I is equals to 0, but j is equals to 0. So when will this j be printed? We will define the range of j is equals to I plus 1, that is I is 0 plus 1, that is 1. So the range for j is 1 for this first row, the range for j is 2 for this second row, and this is how the range gets incremented each time. So for j in range, I plus 1 will be the range. Now what we will print? We need to print over here the value and give the end equals to backslash t. Okay, in this way the value gets printed, but each time the value gets printed, the value is incrementing. By how the value is incrementing? Value is incrementing by 20. Okay, so after printing this, we need to have a print statement. For what? It will change the row. Let's enter and run the program. The number of rows were 4 in this particular program. We just entered 4, and see over this 15, 30, 50, 45, 65, 85, 60, 80, 100, 120. We have got our pattern successfully got printed. So the logic for this pattern was to form the triangle logic, and again to form the shape logics, that the numerical logic, by defining these values. In case of numerical, we need to form another value which can match this increment in the number of rows each time. Okay, this is the main case, the increment in the row each time. So let's move to our next pattern, and that pattern is 7, 14, 13, 21, 20, 19, 20, 27, 26, 25. So what do you observe in this pattern? In this pattern, we observe that the first condition is a triangle like this. And how to form this triangle? We give the range for I is n, and for the range for j is I plus 1. This is the range for j, and in this way we can form this triangular pattern. So the pattern problem for the triangle is over. Now about the numerical problem. So what kind of difference is it? In the first time it is incrementing by 7, in the second time 7, in the third time 7. So the 7 is the increment each time in the difference of the rows. So how can we form the 7? So there are 4 number of rows. So n is equals to 4 is the input given from the user. We need to use I, j and n for getting this pattern been printed. So n is equals to 4. So what can you observe, or how can we form this pattern 7, 14, 21? For this we can do is value which is equals to n into 2 minus 1. This can be done, n into 2 minus 1. So each time that is 7, that is 4 into 2, that is 8 minus 1, it becomes 7. So 7, 14, 21, 28. This is how the value of 7 can be got by using n into 2 minus 1. So now further we need to know that it is incrementing by 7 this for this first one, for second one by 14, for third one by 21. So this difference is a multiplication. So how can we do this? By using the I. But I for the first row is 0. So if 0 multiplied by anything, it becomes 0. So we need not to use the 0. We want here 1. So we will give I plus 1 and multiply this bracket with this bracket. Okay, now let's move on to form a program. The input, that is number of rows, has been taken from the user. Now what we need to define here is for I in range. What is the range? The range is n. And value, what is the value? Value which is equals to, we need to look for the value. The value here is n into 2 minus 1 into I plus 1. The value here is into the bracket n into 2 minus 1 bracket close, and then this bracket multiplied by I plus 1. This is the value. And now defining the j block for j in range. What is the range for j? As I told you, it is a triangle which is incrementing downwards. I plus 1 is the range for j. Now we need to print the pattern. What is the pattern? Here print value, comma, and equals to this backslash t. Okay. Now what will be printed over here? Here 7 will be printed. After 7, what we need is, we need to decrement the value. That is, in the second row, that is 14, 13, the third row 21, then 20, then 19. This is how the values are being decremented when the particular column gets started. So how do this decrement do? We will just do value minus equals to 1. That is, each time the value decrements by 1 in the particular column, and then print. So let's see the result, if the code is correct or not. So how many rows were been told in this? I think 4. So let's give the input as 4. See over here, 7, 14, 13, 21, 20, 19, 28, 27, 26. Perfectly this pattern has been printed. Now many of the students can do that. To print this pattern, they can use the hard code values, not use the I, J and N. If we use the hard coded values, then it will print the this pattern only for the row, if the rows are 4, if the hard coded. But now here you can see this same pattern can be printed for number of rows given as 3. See over here, it is 5. It is 5 to the 10, 10 minus 1, 9. 5 to the 15, 14, 13. The same number of pattern can be printed if we use this I, J and N values. Many students, what they do is, to form a particular shape, they use the hard coded values which are not used in the long term. So this is our next pattern to be printed. See over here, what we can observe is that there are number of rows. How many number of rows? There are 4 number of rows. So input taken from the user is n is equals to 4. You need to take this in mind. And now see over here, this is a shape like this, 1, 2, 3, 4 rows, but the columns are not 4. Their columns are incrementing. Okay, and the number is also incrementing, like 1, 2, 3, 4. It is not like each row starts with something. There is no pattern found. The number is starts from 1, ends at 16. There is no any kind of pattern for to be done for each increment. Like here we were doing that value is multiple of this kind of thing. In this pattern there is no multiplication kind of scenario. So what kind of scenario is there? So we can note that till here it is a square tag, and from here it is above the square. For this, we need to apply the multiple for loops. Let's program and understand the concept for it. So what is the program? We need to enter the input from the user first. After getting the input from the user, what we need to do is number equals to 1. As the number starts from the initialized value, that is, it starts from 1 only. Now let's start from the I block. For I in range, what is the range for I? The range for I is about n. That is, number of rows are 4. Now is there any kind of value, hardcode value, that needs to be our pattern, that is multiply? No, there is no pattern. For j in range, what is the range for j? For the j, the range is n plus I. You need to notice this thing very carefully. Over here there are n in the first row. There are n columns. In the second row, n plus 1 columns. In the third, n plus 2. And as we go down, 1 column gets incremented, and so as the value I gets incremented. So After that, what we need to print is print number, and then the same statement end equals to backslash t. And after this printing, what we need to do is um, the value of n gets incremented each time. So num plus equal to 1. And after this, we need to print this. Now let's find the solution. What are number of rows? 4. So let's see. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So in this pattern, there is something wrong. What is wrong? As you can see, it is printed till 16 and these values are needed to be kept empty. See over here, these values are needed to be kept empty. So how can we do this, that these values are kept empty? So see over here, what the thing is that for this pattern has this empty spaces over here. So we need to print these empty spaces also. So what kind of condition can be given to print these empty spaces? These empty spaces can be printed by the condition that n is equals to 4, and as we go downward, the empty spaces gets reduced. So what kind of value can be done over here? So for if j is less than n minus 1 minus I. That is, for this first row, this one value is printed over here. So how can this one value be printed? In this case, I is 0. So n is equals to 4. 4 minus 1, that is 3. So if j is less than 3, then empty spaces would be printed. And if j is greater than 3, then this pattern can be printed. Okay, so this is how the condition can be applied. So for j in range n plus I, if j is less than n minus 1 minus I, print empty space, else print number and increment that number by plus 1. Now let's run this program and check if it is running correctly or not. Our number of rows are 4, and see over here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and till 16. Perfectly we have printed the pattern over here. So this is how the pattern printing is being done. We need to analyze the pattern. We need to note that how many number of rows are there. The number of rows is equals to n. That is the input given by the user. And we need to perform all the values based on I, j and n only. So for these empty spaces, we need to give another condition, that is if condition. If j is less than, j is greater than, this kind of condition needs to be formed for this empty spaces to be printed. And that is how we have been printed the different kind of patterns successfully, and these are very beneficial in the process of logic building in the terms of programming. So to solve these kind of interesting logical problems and build your logic to get improved with the programming, like, share and subscribe to our channel, and do follow the logic building series. Thank you. Stay tuned.